How do you become the smartest person in the world? All you have to do is answer one question correctly. How many times does 1 plus 1 equal?
2?
The people in the room were collectively surprised because the man was the first to answer the question correctly. It turns out that in the 24th century, people with high IQs were reluctant to have children, and the more people with low IQs had more and more children. As a result, the IQ of human beings became lower and lower as time went on. In order to preserve the high IQ gene, they chose to volunteers to hibernate, Jake and Mary being one of them. The original plan was to thaw them out after a year, but because of the high level of secrecy, only one leader knew about it, and as a result, this leader suffered from Alzheimer's disease and forgot about the plan. 500 years later, the garbage had piled up for centuries, creating several mountains of garbage. The largest of these is caused by a canister collapsing, causing garbage to pour into the city. Jake's freezer bin also rushes into Tom's room. Jake wakes up from the freezer bin, and before he can recover, Tom's studies are interrupted, and the other guy just throws him out. Jake wakes up and realizes that the world is completely different now. He intends to find someone to ask about the situation, but before he can say anything, he is threatened with a fight. Jake looks at the hospital in front of him and feels a little panicked. He goes inside and sees that it's dirty and messy, and the hallways are filled with video games. Jake tried to get a drink of water to calm down, but there were only drinks in the place. He flipped through the magazines on the counter and realized that he had been asleep for 500 years. The doctor sees that he has no tattoos on his hands and calls security to arrest him. Jake is taken to court, where the judge justly gets him a lawyer. It turns out that this lawyer is the same Tom that was just there. However, since Jake messed up Tom's home, Tom criticized him instead. In the end, Jake is sentenced to 200 years in prison. The man wakes up 500 years later to find the world in chaos. Buildings are about to collapse. People are tied up with ropes. Bridges are broken, and cars are crashing in droves. Jake is in prison for having no identification. He decides to use people's stupidity to escape, finds the prison guards, and says his sentence expires today and escapes without incident. He finds Tom, a lawyer, hoping to find a time machine to go back 500 years. Tom hears this and immediately takes him on a journey. Halfway there, he meets Mary, a volunteer, who immediately gets in the car and explains the situation. But the police find out about Jake's lies and attack them. Even though they haven't gotten far, Jake is caught and sent to the White House. The president thinks Jake is the smartest man in the world because he's the only one who knows that 1 plus 1 equals 2. You heard that right. This lanky, long-haired wrestling champion is the president himself. The other side quickly takes him to an international convention and announces that Jake has been made a minister. Jake must solve the 3 problems of crops not growing, sandstorms ravaging the city, and making money within a week or he will be put in jail. To solve the problems, Jake has enlisted Mary as his partner. Don't ask them why they don't run away, because with the flamethrowers pointed right at you, would you dare to take the risk? However, chance leads Jake to discover the problem of crops not growing. So Jake came up with a solution to the problem of crops not growing by replacing the drinks with water. However, after a long time passes, the crops still don't grow, and the beverage company lays off employees because there is less big business. These laid-off employees stormed out en masse and took Jake to court, where he was eventually reincarcerated. As a felon, the way to get free is simple: win 3 giant chariots in a dueling arena. However, Jake drives a minivan. Right out of the gate, an ultimate chariot across the street blew itself up. Despite driving a small car, with his IQ, Jake managed to get the 2 cars to collide with each other, to the shock of the entire audience. Just as Jake was declared the winner, Mike, the owner of the ultimate chariot, appeared and chased Jake with a howitzer in hand. As Jake was about to lose support, his teammates realized that all the crops they had planted had sprouted. They immediately grabbed their cameras and broadcasted all live on the big screen in the dueling arena. Jake's solution proves to be really effective. The president immediately pushes Mike out of the way, saves Jake, and communicates a pardon for his sins. Now all that's left is to find the time machine and travel back 500 years. However, things don't go according to plan. Jake stayed forever and also became president, and married, and started a happy and fulfilling family.